Ben Raza. How you doing today, Ben?
I'm good. Happy Friday as always. We're back in action now. The summer is basically over. Football is officially here, so it's time. It's go time. So I'm excited. Also a little busy, but certainly excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. We had a long summer break,
We did.
which was nice to, refresh and get away. We did a couple shows. Then my wife decided to have a baby. So I feel like we haven't really like dug into anything these last like few months. So I'm excited to kind of get back into this.
Absolutely. We got a lot. We have college football is here. There were games last night. There are games today. There's a full Saturday slate tomorrow, which I'll be pumping out articles and we'll touch upon that. And then NFL it's insane. Thursday it
It's
starts.
here.
Yep.
It's here. Yeah. Next week, Thursday, we got Bears Pack. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Obviously, we're going to get into some college. Uh, Before we get too far into it, I want to mention our presenting sponsor, which is EV Analytics, who provides real-time odds, betting stats, betting models, all of your betting needs. Make sure to check out their site. Um, One thing we don't mention too often, but if you could like the show and subscribe to our channel, that really does help us out. Every little bit helps, and we really appreciate all the support. Before we talk a little football, Ben, I wanted to ask you, how you're feeling with the Mets getting swept by the Cubs the last 3 days.
Mm.
Should we stop the show? Can you continue?
It's you're just used to it at this point. Like the Mets do things only to prolong hope, even though it's all false hope. So they got on that run, and now we see what's happening. But luckily, you can bury that with football here. I don't have to pay
That's
attention
right.
to them nearly as much.
Yeah, we really haven't talked much baseball, but I just had to mention that. It was just right there on a silver platter for me, so I had to do it. So I really want to dig into college. You've been pumping out a lot of content. Before we do that, I want to talk NFL for just a few minutes. The plan is, just so everybody knows, for next week, we're really going to dive into week one. Obviously, it'll be the Friday before week one. We're going to offer each one of our own picks. We may have a third guest join us. We're talking about doing some sort of contest, tracking our picks and doing some sort of humiliating punishment to whoever loses, that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah,
So I'm,
good,
I'm
good
looking
time.
forward to that.
It's going to be great. Yeah.
So, Ben, you might have heard last Saturday night there was some news about Andrew Luck. Uh,
I
you
did
know,
hear that. So I was watching the Miami Florida game, which was a train wreck. I could do a whole show about how bad that game was.
it was
But,
awful.
but across the bottom, you get when they do the red breaking news, it's something serious. And I saw it, and my first thought was one of the parody accounts got all the way through, and then slowly realized it wasn't a joke. And I mean, never in a million years did I see that coming. If he was ruled out for the year, it would have been shocking. But
Yeah.
to just retire, I was stunned, obviously.
Yeah, I kind of want to avoid like all the hot takes about the actual retirement itself. What I did want to talk to you about is, we talked about team totals that we like, and we've talked about NFL futures the last few weeks. Obviously, this has a huge impact on the AFC, on the entire league. Um, what are your thoughts? Are there any, team totals that you like a little more now? Are you, just piling money in on the Texans to win the division? They had an issue too, which we're going to talk about real briefly. Obviously, with Lamar Miller going down, obviously the odds to win the AFC are significantly altered. Indy was probably the third favorite behind the Chiefs and the Pats. So, what do you see? Like, have you made any moves? Like, what are your thoughts on it?
No, I mean, I was able to. The Texans were a team that we had talked about a little as having some, ceiling, even though their floor was pretty low. So I had some positions on them already. Obviously, the odds adjusted immediately. I will say though, I thought the team total for the Colts specifically swung a little too much. Yes, they're not an AFC contender anymore, but it dropped. I think it's around. I think it's 6.5 right now. I don't have it in front of me, but Jacoby Brissett, he's a fine player. The weapons are there for him. I wouldn't be stunned to see them still in the mix. Ultimately, not winning the South, but still, a team that's in contention late in the season.
I actually agree with you. I think it swung way too far for the team total. You always have overreaction to injuries. Obviously, this is not an injury situation, but it's akin to him being out for the season, right? And
Yep.
the market is gonna drastically overreact, and sports books are really going to move as fast as they can, to protect themselves from, people just hammering the under on the 9.5. I've seen 6.5 and I saw 7. I'm trying to see what it's at right now, but um, I'm kind of with you. If you can get 6.5 still, the division still isn't great. We've talked about this already. I don't want to reiterate too much, but like over 6.5 seems like an opportunity that is worth, capitalizing on. It just seems like there's too much value now on the other side.
I agree, and yeah, I'm not going to dive in, but you got the Titans, you got the Jaguars. These are teams that I still think that the Colts they're certainly not vastly behind them. When you just look at the team as a whole, Luck is irreplaceable, but they did have a backup. It's not like they had nobody back there, so I think people have overreacted to it in the sense that thinking, oh, the Colts are going to get the number one pick and get Tua. I don't see that happening at all.
I don't either. Brissett played the entire 2017 season and struggled pretty mightily, but that was a very different team, a different coach, different system completely. So yeah, look, there's some optimism, but there's also kind of that Ewing theory where the team is going to rally around, play the season for him, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely, something I'm looking at. If I can find a 6.5, I see 7 now. I think the market has moved a little bit. But if you can find a 6.5, I still think there's some value on the other side.
I'm with you. Yep.
You think the Texans' outlook changes at all? I mean, obviously there's a conversation about the value of running backs in today's NFL and how much that really hurts.
Not really, to be honest.
Yeah.
For them, it's a pretty, I don't want to say it's binary, but they need to keep Deshaun Watson healthy and upright.
Yeah.
With him, they have abilities to do major damage, and if he goes down or is ineffective, they're going to be struggling. So it's a boom bust type of team. Overall, though, I think it's sad to see Lamar Miller go down. I don't think it changes the outlook too much, though.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've always been a huge Duke Johnson fan. I don't know if he can be a 3-down back, but he's going to take on a significant part of that load. I think they're going to be fine. I think we both are really bullish on the Texans. Anything else NFL wise you want to talk about Bears Pack a little bit, or do you want to just save everything? Obviously, we won't have a show before that game.
Let's talk. You're a Chicago guy. I can indulge you for a bit. Yeah, I mean, I remember last year that was a ridiculous game with Khalil Mack taking over the league, and it seemed like Aaron Rodgers was going to be out for the year. So this one, I see it right now. I'm looking. You got the Bears at home, 3-point favorite, over under at 46. Nothing too surprising there. No disrespect to the Vikings, but to me, these are the two favorites in the North. So it's a key game, even though it's only the first game.
Yeah, they really, gave them, to highlight this game as the opener. Usually it's the Super Bowl champion who plays on that first Thursday night game. So for them to pick Bears Pack, was an interesting selection, and I think kind of shows to what you're saying, right? Like the potential here is pretty significant that these two teams are the best two teams in the division. Like they could meet again in the playoffs. Obviously, you have Aaron Rodgers. The Bears got a lot of hype with their defense. I'm already loving the Bears -3, and obviously I'm a bit of a homer, but I think that's too short of a line. And obviously, there's a lot that still has to go into that analysis before a game that's 6 days away. And I haven't bet it yet, but right now I do like the Bears -3.
Do you think that Matt LaFleur is really we're gonna see anything different? I assume that there'll be some new wrinkles, but do you think, like when we saw Nagy and he was super, innovative right off the bat, do you think we see the Packers with some really unique things with Rodgers and his weapons?
I'm not sure. I think they're going to try. I think the difference from McCarthy to him is so significant that I think even the smallest change is going to look pretty significant. Like just to modernize an Aaron Rodgers offense, like this seems like such a no-brainer. So in that sense, I'm really interested to see kind of how they come out. How fast are they going to play? What formations are they going to be in? Is it going to be all 11 personnel? I like Aaron Jones a lot, just for like a season-long type player. Like I think he's going to have a really good season. It's going to be a tough matchup for him on Thursday, but yeah, I'm really interested to see what LaFleur does. Obviously, he's had months to scheme for one game here, so I'm really curious.
Me too. That's the one wild card, with this that we don't know. The personnel they've got They've got receiver, obviously Devontae Adams. Aaron Jones should be unleashed, and Rodgers is healthy, at least right now, so he has everything you could want as a new coach. It's just about what can he do. And you're right. This is not, I'm sure if say the Packers, and I'm just throwing numbers out here, say they lose, 24-10 or something, and their offense is really inefficient. The pendulum is going to swing wildly about this guy sucks. He's just as bad as McCarthy. He's wasting Aaron Rodgers. It's a tough ask, in Chicago against that Bears defense. Not a great start.
Yeah, tough place to start.
Really tough place to start.
Yeah, and if that does happen, I'll probably be like automatically betting on the Packers week 2. I don't even know who they're playing or what the line will be, but the overreaction theater is so strong in the NFL.
Absolutely. I don't know if we lost him, but
Jordan, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I don't think we have him. So it's
Ben,
just me.
can you hear me? Ben, can you hear me?
He's back. You talk about the Bears, and then you just then he just ducks out on us. I think we got him back.
We good?
I was just saying, you talk about the Bears, and then you just leave me high and dry. No respect.
It's my just disappearing trick there, apparently.
Yeah, it's I've seen that one before with the old Bears, but it's going to be a fun Thursday game. On the other side, if people are watching, we're going to have some showdown. There's, you win those showdowns, you're set for the whole year. So I'll be playing it. We will be providing content on that. And I have no position on the game yet, but we'll be talking about to see, 3 is such a key number. I'm interested to see if heavy money comes in, if it'll dip to 2.5 or 3.5 one way.
Yeah, and so often that's going to determine kind of what side I'm on, just that late money and kind of see where it's coming in. Because obviously, if I can get the Bears under 3 or the Packers over 3, that's a significant, that is the key number in the NFL. So that is something to keep an eye on. And like you said, we're going to have a show on Thursday night beforehand, breaking it down, doing the showdown analysis, doing some betting talk in there too. I'll be tuning in. Very excited for Thursday to get here.
Absolutely. I'll be tuning in / I think I'm on the show. So
yeah, I think it's your show.
Yeah, I think it's my show. So I'll be certainly there in one way or another. But then, the season gets started and we'll have a ton to break down. It's only week 1, but it's here finally.
It is. And good transition. Speaking of being here finally, we had kind of an appetizer last week with just a couple games, but college football is officially here after last night and then some games tonight. You've written already a great article about the Thursday night slate. Tonight's slate, you're going to have something for Saturday. A ton of college football betting and DFS content on the site. There was a couple games from last night that I just wanted to talk to you, kind of get your almost postmortem thoughts on. The first one, which I can't help myself, is the UCLA Cincinnati game.
So gross. Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that so I can rip Chip Kelly.
By all means.
Sure.
So in your Thursday article, you liked Cincinnati, right? They were a short favorite. They're minus 2.5 or 3, kind of depending, when and where you got it, which again, always odd shopping is one of the most important advantages to a sports bettor. You just have to do it. And all the games I think that I've highlighted from yesterday, it was really critical to get the best of the number. Well, UCLA didn't matter.
No, but Texas State did, and there were some other games right around the number.
Clemson was right around there too.
Yeah. So Chip Kelly. Listen, and it's good to get it out right at the beginning. I was ready to go last night in DFS. Joshua Kelly, who is UCLA's best player, took first on the depth chart. He was healthy, ready to go, did his warm-ups, and Chip Kelly held him out. Said that the knee wasn't there. He said, we're going to try to get him some snaps, and at halftime didn't do it. Nature of the beast. They don't have to report injuries like the NFL. It's very frustrating, but we just kind of have to. It's the same for everyone. So I was completely crushed DFS. Cincinnati, though, I did like them in the game. That eased the burden, and we just saw a really vanilla. I was really disappointed with Chip Kelly. Everyone said that this UCLA team was about to take the next step. I know they were missing their best player, but you got to be better than that. Their quarterback looked wildly inefficient. And Cincinnati, if it wasn't for some sloppy mistakes, would have won the game really going away. They did catch some breaks at the end, no doubt, but just an ugly game all around.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. So a lot of people I've heard have been, hyping up this guy Dorian Thompson Robinson,
Yeah,
and
DTR.
DTR. So his line was, let's see, 8 for 26 with 2 fumble loss and 2 interceptions.
Yeah, it was. He was
Not
an
good.
equal opportunity turnover machine. He was making mistakes all over the place. And in his defense, when you have Joshua Kelly right next to you, it's a lot easier. They were using a wide receiver at running back, which again, I have no idea how hurt the guy was, but he was dressed and he looked ready to go, and he took warm-ups with the first team. So I don't really understand what Chip Kelly was doing. There's no reason for deception, and it blew up right in his face. So that's what UCLA gets. Big win for Cincinnati. They get Ohio State coming up. That's going to be a really interesting game, just looking a little ahead.
Yeah. I thought maybe like they might, not that they would ever overlook UCLA, but kind of look ahead to that big Ohio State game. And I don't know how much you put stock into like the revenge narrative or whatever, but like Cincinnati embarrassed UCLA last year in week 1, at the Rose Bowl. And for UCLA to come out the way they did yesterday, that's not a good sign.
It really wasn't. It was, and I mentioned this in my article. Part of the reason was I just thought the number was too low. I was high on, and I still am on UCLA this season. I think that they should be a pretty good team. 2.5, I was stunned. I thought this would be near a touchdown, to be honest.
Yeah, so that right there, I mean, you identified it like right off the bat, and the number didn't end up making a difference, but
no,
but it was too. I mean, clearly, just that line was too low, and pretty rough start for UCLA. What do you think about that Texas State A&M game?
So it was a really interesting slate last night because you had Clemson playing Georgia Tech. They were a 37-point favorite. You had Texas A&M 33.5, 34-ish over Texas State. Those two play next week. So I wanted to see who was going to call off the dogs first and what was going to happen. I thought not that Texas State is good, but I thought A&M looked very sharp. Kellen Mond is very good. Corbin takes over at running back. He ran right through them. But again, we're going to find out everything we need to know. They go to Death Valley next week. Clemson did not look good. Trevor Lawrence looked terrible. Not that it matters. He was very sloppy. ATN did all the heavy lifting there. But you speak to the importance of line shopping. The Texas State number, depending on what you got, made the difference because it landed basically on the number.
That's kind of what I wanted to talk about. And of course, as you mentioned, that they were going to play each other next week. And, how did that affect, the calling off the dogs? And they're both laying such a huge number. And both games ended up like right on the number, depending where you got it. Right. So A&M wins 41-7. Like that line was 33.5, 34. Like, I don't think I ever saw 34.5, but
I didn't either, but could have been out there. Yeah. It was, like I said, two teams that were overmatched, but Texas A&M was certainly sharper. We don't need to talk about this, but they play Clemson, Alabama, and Georgia and LSU this year. It's just
good luck.
Like if they go 9-4, they might have like the 8th best team in the country. It's crazy.
Yeah, just the murderer's row of that conference is insane.
Brutal. But the last game, and then we can get on to today and a little to tomorrow. I just want to mention Utah last night in the Holy War against BYU.
That's the one.
Yep, they look good. That defense is fantastic. Maybe the best D-line in the country. Zach Moss at running back, just a lot of volume, does his thing, found the end zone. And they, in a game that's always, you kind of throw records and pedigree out because it's such a rivalry game, Utah looked distinctly the best team, and they showed it.
Yeah, that was one that I wanted to get your thoughts, just because we've talked about it. You're not the only one, but obviously a lot of people are high on Utah, that being a perennial like playoff contender, like a legit contender to get in the playoffs this year. So correct me if I'm wrong, but that's going to be one of their toughest games probably of the season, right?
So they, the Pac-12, and we're going to talk about some Pac-12 things coming up. It's been a bad run for them, and Utah, the way their schedule sets up, they should be undefeated for a while. They're going to have some games here and there, and maybe they get someone like Oregon in the championship. We'll see. But they're set up to be a dark horse, and that was a huge hurdle. I did not make a wager on the game. I now looking back, obviously, wish I did pull the trigger on Utah, but it's just a tough spot going to BYU. They were very impressive though.
Yeah, it was a big win. I think a pretty big statement win too
Absolutely.
for them. Okay, for tonight, like I said, you have an article on the site now breaking down some of the games for tonight. One I wanted to mention is Okie State playing at Oregon State. That line opened around 17, has come all the way down to 13 and a half. Some 14s out there, but pretty significant movement. Uh, where are you on this game? Kind of, what are your thoughts? Obviously, that line has come way down. Are you buying into Oregon State? I know they've been a pretty rough program.
They're so bad, and it's such a. So one of the things I struggle with early in college football is I do a ton of prep in the offseason, and I get enamored with teams. Kent State was an example last night. They return 10 guys from a defense. Well, if your defense gets up 60 points a game, that might be a bad thing. Maybe you just want new players. Oregon State is in that boat. They return a ton from a 2-10 team, but going to Corvallis is not easy, even when they're awful. And so Oklahoma State is on the road tonight. They lose. They've lost their quarterback. They've lost Justice Hill, who's on the Ravens now. Mike Gundy said he's going to play both quarterbacks, which I think that's why the line dropped. That's always a little dicey in my book. So they're going to be running multiple guys out. Both teams should put up offense. The over-under, I don't have it in front of me, but it's high. And
I think 72.
72, yeah, that's a lot. So I think people are banking that, Oregon State has their QB back, big running back in Jefferson. They should be able to move the ball. It's just going to be, can they get any stops, even against an Oklahoma State offense? They don't have Justice Hill, but they have great name, Chuba Hubbard, the new running back, who I highlight him in the DFS side of the article. I like him tonight. If you are playing, he should really carry the backfield and carry Oklahoma State in this game.
Yeah, such a huge total. Obviously, we've talked about that. Are you leaning either side in this game? Do you have a strong opinion?
So I got Oregon State earlier in the week at 15. So I have nothing major. I don't even love the bet. I think going to Corvallis, and when I heard they really haven't decided on a quarterback, I did make a small play on it. I don't have really much to say on the game, honestly. I think it'll be pretty competitive, and then Oklahoma State should pull away. They're the better team, and even on the road, they should be able to score. It's one you need to have exposure to on the DFS side. I don't think there's any debate on that.
Yeah, that's for sure. Such a high total. Another game that you talk about in your write-up for tonight is that Purdue at Nevada game, which that line does seem a little bit high, and I think that was kind of your conclusion. Purdue is laying 11 on the road going to Nevada.
It's just there's some games where it's just a weird spot to start on the road in Reno against Nevada, they're not great, but they're not awful either. And Rondell Moore is amazing. He's one of the best players in the entire country. But besides him, Purdue's offense lost a ton. Running backs are banged up. The quarterback is banged up. I believe he's playing, but again, you got to keep an eye on that as we get closer. So there's a lot of question marks. And then you have the Nevada. They run the air raid offense.
Mm-hmm.
Do they have the personnel? Yeah, sort of. It's not a great team. But again, at home, double-digit dog. I think the game stays close. But I'm not saying Nevada's going to win the game, but Purdue winning handily is not where I'm leaning at all.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. I mean, I kind of lean to you a little bit with, I don't know much about the Purdue team this year, but just the spot in general seems like a tough place to start the season on the road, laying that many points. Are there any other games today or tonight that caught your eye that you want to talk about, or you want to jump into the big slate tomorrow?
I'll just give one real quick, and it's not the fun. If you're trying to have fun at the bar, I don't know if this is the one for you, but I like the under in the Tulsa Michigan State game.
Okay.
Tulsa's offense is not good. They have a major problem on the offensive line, one of the most inexperienced offensive lines in the entire country. And they're going to Michigan State, who's had one of the best defenses in the country, and they return 8 starters. So it's just a spot where I wouldn't be stunned to see Tulsa get shut out and just put up no points. So if it's one of those games, Michigan State's offense to me doesn't scream, that they're going to hang 50 on anybody. So it just has all the makings of like a 35-7 type game. Over under sits at 48, and
Yeah.
I just think I lean under. I don't think Tulsa can do enough. It's going to really put a lot of pressure on Michigan State to hang a massive number to get over this total.
Yeah, where I'm looking, it's at 48. I don't think that's moved too much, but yeah, like you said, I mean, Michigan State doesn't seem like the team that's going to run it up, significantly and put up 40 plus on a team. But that number, it seems to be kind of stuck around 48. So let's talk then tomorrow. Do you want to jump right into the main event, or do you want to talk about a few other games
It's up
before
to
we hit
you.
the
Is there
fan?
anything? Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about Oregon and Auburn, but are there any other kind of less notable games that you looked at? I know you've been doing a million different things, but you did take a peek.
I took a peek. So one that definitely jumped out to me is Texas and Louisiana Tech. That number has been on the move a little bit too, and I believe now sits at 21 and a half, which just seems way too high for me. Texas, I did uncover a stat where Tom Herman's record as an underdog against the spread, he's 13-2-1, but as a favorite, he's 14-22-2. And that number is even worse when you're talking about a big double-digit favorite. Uh, Louisiana Tech has got a pretty decent offense, like an explosive quarterback receiver combo there. It's just a spot where I feel like the line is too high, and I just don't love the Texas program and what Tom Herman's done with it. Have you looked at that game at all?
I have. The spread is dropping at my book. It's actually 20 and a half already. So it shows, it speaks to what you're saying.
Yeah,
And Texas is a really interesting team. A lot of people, and I get it, they have a Heisman contender QB. A lot of people are saying that they may challenge Oklahoma in the Big 12. I'm a little skeptical. I'm not going to lie. This is not a spot where, I mean, they've played some real stinkers against Maryland and some bad teams in the past. They're going to get by Louisiana Tech at home. There's no doubt, but I wouldn't be stunned to see another sluggish effort from them right out of the gate. The over under not really stood out, 55 and a half. So they're really
yeah,
saying that Louisiana Tech is going to have trouble moving the ball when you talk about, kind of what those team totals imply with a 3 touchdown spread.
right.
So it's a spot I probably won't make a wager on the game, but Texas is a team that I'm definitely going to watch closely because I think there's going to be some opportunities to short them if we think maybe the public is a little overvalued on them.
Yeah, I think they are a kind of a public team where the line does get shaded a little bit too high, and it does seem like it's coming down, which probably indicates some money's coming in on Louisiana Tech. Texas does have LSU next week, so maybe there's a factor there too, where either they call off the dogs or there's just kind of that slight just overlook, of Louisiana Tech, and they're just not real crisp, this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So that line definitely jumped out to me. That was one of the bigger ones. What about you? Were there any other games that jump into you,
So
outside of the main events?
So I do want to talk real quick about 2 games, and then we'll talk about Oregon, Auburn, and get out of here. But East Carolina is a team, another atrocious team from last year, but they've solidified their QB. I'm writing him up for the Saturday slate, dual threat in Ahlers, and they play NC State, who's one of the teams that lost. They lost everybody. They got guys playing all, Ryan Finley, the quarterback, Kelvin Harmon, Jacoby Myers. These are all pros now off that offense. So I'm not sure exactly what we're going to get out of NC State, and the spread it's hanging around 17.
Mm,
It's fluctuating a little, but I still see 17s out there, and I'm willing to just infer that's what we're doing in week 1. We're trying to say, okay, what are these losses going to quantify on the field? Is this team going to resemble what we saw last year, or are they going to be a totally different thing? And they have no backup QB. 8 career passing attempts on that roster. So it's a blank slate. Maybe whoever they're running at NC State will be effective at QB, but he's not going to be Ryan Finley. So this is a spot that I'm willing to bank that East Carolina, who's going to make strides this year in an in-state rivalry game, can keep it closer than 17.
yeah, that's a good game to keep an eye on. I'll probably tail you with that one as well. One game that I do want to ask you about, probably the only time all year I'm going to ask you about Illinois. They're laying 18 with Akron coming to Illinois. I've kind of heard through the grapevine that there's been some pretty big wagers on Illinois to cover that number, which just in a vacuum seems crazy to me. I know they're one of those teams returning a lot of players, but are they a lot of bad players returning?
Well, that's Illinois is a team I looked at more than you would think in the offseason. I tried to get down some spots on their team total, and it moved to a number that I really didn't like, and I ended up doing nothing with them. They need to get a quarterback. If they do that, the rest of the team is pretty talented, given that they're Illinois. No offense if he's watching the show. I doubt he is. Lovie Smith, not a fan, not going to lie. I don't think he gets the most out of the team. He's taken back his defensive play calls. We'll see what they can do. If I had to make a position on the game, I would take Akron personally. I think that they're good enough to generate some points in the game, but overall, it's not a game I'll be touching because I want to see what Illinois can do this year.
Well, thanks a lot. We just lost one of our, valuable listeners. In
when we see that downvote, we'll know that Lovie Smith watches the stream, and that'll be worth it. But real quick, before we get to Oregon-Auburn, a little specialty, because we certainly aren't going to talk to chat before this. You heard it here first. Houston on Sunday, they're 23-point underdog against Oklahoma. Dana Holgorsen from West Virginia is now their coach. He's seen Oklahoma a million times. De'Aaron King is phenomenal. I don't want to go with a hot take, but I wouldn't be stunned to see the Cougars keep it really close. High-octane offense, and I know Jalen Hurts is great, but he's not Kyler Murray, and he's not Baker Mayfield. So I have a feeling that Oklahoma really struggles in week one as a big favorite.
Are you telling us that we should be sprinkling with Houston, or just that they're going to keep it close and cover the 23?
So I have a position on Houston at plus 23. I mean, I don't even have money line listed in mine. I think that's very aggressive. If you have it and you want to sprinkle, that's where units come into play, and that's a whole different show. But I really do think that people are underrating how useful it is that Dana Holgorsen is now Houston's coach. He's an offensive genius, but he has seen Oklahoma time and time again from his time at West Virginia. And he has the personnel that they can handle a team like Oklahoma. There's no doubt in my mind.
And just kind of speaking to the firepower, that total right now sits at 80 for that game.
Yeah, that's a lot of if that was on the Saturday slate, it would just be a pure stack it up. There's going to be points. There's no doubt about that. It's just who can make a couple timely stops or force a couple timely turnovers.
Real quick, since we're talking about, not on Saturday, what do you think of Notre Dame?
Oh God, I really just dislike them in life. Louisville is a team that really, it's amazing. This is why you don't play Bama early. They just, once they did that, it was over. That team was just derailed. Juwan Pass is a good player. They've got some personnel, but
yeah,
I'm not going to touch the game. I really don't have a strong take. I think that Notre Dame, Ian Book is a legitimate top-end QB, and they've got some talent. I don't think they're going to make the playoff. I think that Michigan, other type of teams, I like better than Chad's talking about Michigan. I could see them rolling Middle Tennessee State. I think that's a good call by Kyle. I'm with you there. All in Cougars money line. That's what I'm talking about, Chad. That is, you heard it here first.
I'm seeing 825 on that Cougars money line.
Yeah, it's not 825. It's not bad. Honestly, I thought it would be a little higher, but that's.
Yeah, I think it should be, right?
Probably. It's definitely shaded. There's no doubt about that. But all in all, there's a lot of big spreads. Nebraska's another one. Like, they're 36-point favorite against South Alabama. They should smoke them unmercifully. But you don't want to. I rarely, if ever, lay those kind of points.
Yeah, it's so hard to lay that many points.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into the main event. Obviously, you got Oregon playing Auburn, neutral site. They're playing in Arlington, Texas. The line has been moving. I'm seeing 4 right now. I had seen 3.5. Auburn had opened as a bigger favorite, and it's come down slightly. Give us your thoughts. Let's start there.
Yeah, well, it's not a good start for me because I booked it. I have position on Oregon +3. I got it, and the spread is moving against me. Not a great start, but we'll deal with it. I really, like I said, this is not just a big game for Oregon. It's a big game for the Pac-12 in general. They need a statement win, and this is one of the most interesting matchups. Oregon returns 153 starts on the offensive line. It's the most in the country. They're going against Auburn's defensive line, which them, Utah, Chat pointed this out, and I totally agree. Them, Utah, Ohio State, probably on the short list. So who can win that? And then on the quarterback side, Justin Herbert decided to come back. He could have been, I don't know if he would have been the number one pick, but he would have been a first round pick against Bo Nix, who is a true freshman for Auburn. That to me is the difference in the game. I think Oregon keeps Herbert clean. The receivers are banged up, but Oregon will have enough, and the defense will do enough to hang in and win this game. Win it.
Win it.
Win it.
I like
Plus
it.
150 on that money line. I think Oregon wins the game. I really do.
I don't know where I'm at. I think I'm on your side. One thing that I was reading yesterday was that like there's a chance that Bo Nix may not play the entire game, that they might, bring in Joey Gatewood to kind of sub and, mess around with the two quarterbacks. And like you said earlier, I don't necessarily see that as a positive. Now, if Bo Nix comes out, his shell shock, just looks like he's overwhelmed and they bring someone else in. Maybe that is a positive to have somebody that Auburn can rely on with a little bit more experience. I mean, not a ton, but like you said with Herbert, he started 30 games in college, which, comparing that to a true freshman, I mean, how do you not tip your hat to that as such a significant advantage? And like you said, like the line play is so key with Oregon, the best offensive line, Auburn, arguably the best defensive line, top 2 or 3 in the country. I mean, that's where this game is going to be decided, most definitely.
No doubt. And I saw, credit to David Pollock. I was watching TV yesterday, and he said this about Herbert, and I couldn't sum it up any better going to basketball, that he has all the skills. He needs to make his free throws in the sense that he does some, the easy throws wide open, just not smart. He makes some really just head scratching decision. If he cleans that up, the rest, I mean, the guy's unbelievable. He has all the talent in the world. He just needs to not make those silly, crucial mistakes that really derail the game.
Yeah, that's a really interesting analogy. So let me ask you this, kind of just from a strategic standpoint. If this number, well, let's just say it stays at 4. I mean, are you interested in not doubling up, but maybe adding to your position to get that extra key point there?
I am going to be adding. Like I said, this is a team that, you want to try to keep it in your mind, but I've had this game circled for a while. When Oregon, not to go way back, but last year they were rolling and they lost one of the most absurd games I've ever seen against Stanford. It's not worth recapping, but they had the game and they blew it. And that really changed the dynamic of the season. When everyone decided to come back, this was immediately my focus of, all right, wow, this team against Auburn in this first game is, this is the game they have to win if they have playoff hopes. Yeah. So with Herbert and Jawan Johnson from Penn State, they've got transfers. They've got everything you need. Mario Cristobal has made strides with the defense. This is not like Chip Kelly. They have a real defense. Not that it's elite, but it's good enough. I will definitely continue to buy on Oregon, even if the number's moving against me.
Yeah, it's an interesting point there, right? And especially if the money keeps coming in, I kind of have a feeling it's going to keep coming in on Auburn once the public gets involved tomorrow, and maybe even to some degree today. So, look, this could go up to 4.5. I don't know if it's going to go any higher, but you might have a good opportunity to just kind of add on from your position at 3, which makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it like I said, we'll have to check this. The main players are there. Oregon is a little banged up at wide receiver, but nothing that I see that's crucial. And Auburn's going to try to control the game with the ground game. They have Whitlow. They've got some dudes, but it's a big ask for Bo Nix. I know he's got the pedigree, he's got the talent, but
yeah,
it's not warming up against. Some teams play Florida A&M in the first game. This is a legitimate team that's going to test him.
Yeah, I think you're right that when Oregon did decide, Herbert decided to come back and other people kind of followed suit. You have to imagine they had this game circled
100%
the next day, maybe even that day.
It really does. And I don't want to make too big a deal of it, but it really does feel like that type of situation where they made a decision as a team to let's give it one go. Clemson's D-line last year, they all came back, 3 first rounders, and they did it. They had goals, and they were actually unstoppable. I'm not saying Oregon's in that class, but I am saying that they made a decision, and obviously they knew that this game was looming right at the beginning of the season. Neutral field. It's not like they're down in Alabama. I think that if they're the team that I think they are, they have to win a game like this.
Yeah, I think I'm on board with you. I'm probably going to wait just because I don't have any position yet. I'm probably just going to wait to see where the money starts to come in to see if I can get a better number. But even as it stands now, I think the 4, and I'm probably just going to sprinkle the money line too because I'm on board with you.
I can't wait to see it. Now, if they lose like 42-3, I won't be on the show next week. I'll be taking a leave of absence. But if they win and Houston wins, you'll be seeing my face on all the shows.
Oh, front and center. You will be on the homepage. You'll be everywhere.
Absolutely. So no, it's a great week, and it is. I want to remind people it's only week 1. It's fun to try to hit some teams before the market adjusts, but it's a long season, certainly a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, for sure. Right. Like that kind of goes into like, the units and talking about bet sizing and, bankroll management, all those things that are so important. And like you said, it's week 1, NFL week 1 is on the horizon. There's like the next 19, no more than that, like 22, 23 weeks of football. So buckle up.
Can't wait.
Yeah, me too. I know you got to bounce a little early, so I think we can end it here. We hit up on a lot of the college games. Obviously, like I said, next week we'll talk college for sure, but we're really gonna dive into week 1, give some of our favorite picks for week 1, and really dive into the NFL. So I'm super excited for that.
Can't wait. Yeah, it's going to be great. For people, I'm going to have more articles out I have one out today for the Friday slate. The Saturday slate will be out. If you're in our premium Slack chat, I will be around if you have any questions, because there's a lot of moving parts with college DFS. And then everyone will be raring to go for next week. We're going to do some fun stuff. Chat, we want your input on what you guys want to see in terms of picking some games and having some fun with it, because the NFL is just a whole different animal.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking forward to it. Really excited to start the NFL season together and doing a lot of fun things. Any like fun, crazy bets this weekend? Any European sports you're sweating?
No, I have a position. I need Matthias Schwab in the Euro Golf, which is working out nicely. He's playing great, but I have some positions on him in the outright market, top tens, things like that. Other than that, I may take a page out of your book. We have some really sharp tennis people over at Awesemo, and I've been listening to them and tailing them on some of these bets, and it's been working out. So I'll probably look at some U.S. Open stuff, but it's really college football front and center this week.
Yeah, same here. College football, tennis, and with the main event of the NFL next week. Awesome. Well, obviously we'll talk next week. Looking forward to NFL coming, and we'll see everybody next week on the show.
Good luck.
Good luck, everyone.